The arrival of the Galactic Empire, it was a calm, ordinary day on Earth. People went about their daily routines, workers heading to their offices, students walking to school, families enjoying their time together. But high above them in the sky, something extraordinary was happening, something that would change the course of human history forever. Far beyond the clouds in the depths of space, a massive fleet of ships appeared. They were unlike anything the people of Earth had ever seen before. These ships, dark and sleek, looked like giants gliding through the cosmos, carrying with them the weight of a terrible power. The Galactic Empire had arrived. The first to notice were the scientists at Earth's space observatories. Their eyes widened in shock as they tracked the ship's movements. They had been studying distant galaxies for years, but nothing had ever prepared them for this. The ships moved toward Earth at an unimaginable speed, and within hours their presence was undeniable. Satellites began picking up strange signals, and military radar stations soon confirmed what was happening. The Galactic Empire was coming. News of the arrival spread quickly, first to the world's governments, then to the public. People began to panic. Who were these invaders? What did they want? The world's leaders scrambled to understand the situation. Military forces were put on high alert. The United Nations called an emergency summit. This was no longer just a scientific discovery. It was a crisis. Humanity's first real encounter with another galactic civilization was not going to be a peaceful one. The Galactic Empire had a reputation for conquering and enslaving planets. They were known across the galaxy as ruthless invaders, leaving destruction in their wake. For years, their ships had traveled from one star system to the next, and now they were here on Earth's doorstep. The Empire's leader, an imposing figure named Supreme Commander Zarech, wasted no time in sending a message to Earth. His voice echoed through every communication channel, from televisions to radios to every device capable of receiving signals. His words were clear, cold, and filled with power. People of Earth, he began, we are the Galactic Empire. We claim your world is ours. Your resources will be taken. Your cities will be ours. And you humans will serve us as you have no choice. Surrender now, and you will be spared. Resist, and your world will burn. The message was brief, but it carried the weight of an entire empire. There was no negotiation, no room for discussion, just a simple, chilling demand: Earth's surrender or its destruction. As Zarech's words echoed across the globe, the reactions were immediate. In every corner of the world, people stood frozen, staring at their screens. In cities like New York, London, and Beijing, the world's most powerful leaders gathered in urgent meetings. They knew they could not ignore the threat. The world was in danger, but what could they do? What could they possibly offer to a force so powerful? Earth's leaders were not foolish. They understood the strength of the Galactic Empire. They had studied the history of the galaxy, the wars that had been fought, and the many civilizations that had fallen. They knew that the Empire ships were capable of destroying planets. But even in the face of this overwhelming threat, they refused to immediately give in. We cannot surrender, President Marshall of the United States declared in an emergency broadcast. Humanity has never bowed to any force, and we will not start now. We will find a way to fight back. This is our home. Across the world, there were murmurs of agreement. The people of Earth were scared, but they were not ready to give up. They were ready to resist, to defend their planet, no matter what it took. Behind the scenes, the world's greatest minds worked tirelessly. Scientists, military leaders, and strategists gathered in secret. They knew the odds were against them, but they also knew that Earth had one thing that the Galactic Empire had overlooked: the heart and determination of humanity. While the military prepared for the worst, ordinary people began to wonder how they could help. Stories of brave soldiers fighting in distant lands, of people overcoming impossible odds, were on everyone's lips. Was this their moment to show the galaxy that humans were not weak, that they would not simply roll over when faced with an impossible enemy? As the days passed, the tension on Earth grew. The Galactic Empire's fleet remained in orbit, silently waiting, their intentions clear. But Earth had not yet responded in full force. Leaders from every nation waited to see what the next move would be. Would humanity submit to the will of the Empire, or would they find a way to fight back? Deep inside the government buildings, military commanders paced back and forth, Trying to come up with a plan, it was clear that a direct confrontation would be devastating for Earth. The Empire's ships were much more advanced than anything Earth had, but humanity was not without its strengths. Intelligence, resourcefulness, determination. At the same time, Earth's hidden military assets began to stir. There were weapons and technology. The general public knew nothing about weapons built for times like these. When humanity's survival was on the line, the world stood at a crossroads. The Galactic Empire had sent its message: submit or perish. But Earth had not given up. The world's leaders knew they were facing the greatest challenge in human history, yet something deep within the hearts of humanity told them that they were not done yet. And so the first chapter of Earth's resistance began. The Galactic Empire had come, but Earth would not be conquered without a fight. Earth's resistance unveiled the days following. The Galactic Empire's chilling ultimatum were tense across the world. Nations braced for impact. Governments scrambled to prepare, each trying to grasp the scale of the threat facing them. The skies were filled with drones, satellites, and military aircraft as they kept an eye on the Empire's fleet that hovered silently above Earth. No one could say for sure what the next move would be, but all knew that humanity's fate rested on the decisions made in the coming days. The world's leaders met in a vast underground bunker hidden deep beneath the surface of the Earth. Their faces, filled with worry and doubt, were illuminated by dim flickering lights. They had been given a message from the Galactic Empire: surrender or the planet would be reduced to rubble. But surrender was a word that didn't sit well with Earth's leaders. They had always fought for their survival through wars, struggles, and countless challenges. They had never surrendered, and they weren't about to start now. We cannot give in, President Marshall said firmly, looking around of the group. His voice rang with conviction. We have one shot at this, and we can't waste it. What can we possibly do? Asked General Vasquez, the head of Earth's military forces, her voice low with worry. Their fleet is unlike anything we've ever faced. Our weapons, our technology, they are nothing compared to theirs. I disagree, said Dr. Emery, an expert in space science and technology. We may not have ships as advanced as theirs, but we do have something they don't expect. The room fell silent as everyone turned to Dr. Emery, who had spent years studying the Empire's movements and tactics. She had been studying their attacks on other civilizations, and there was something about their behavior that didn't make sense to her. The Empire's reliance on brute force, their sheer size and might, made them predictable. Humans, she argued, had something that the Empire had underestimated: ingenuity. We need to play this smart. Dr. Emery continued. We have technology that has been kept secret for years. It's old, outdated compared to what the Empire has, but we can make it work. If we use their arrogance against them, we might just stand a chance. The room buzzed with a mix of skepticism and hope. For the first time since the Empire's arrival, there was a glimmer of possibility. The leaders exchanged glances, understanding the weight of what was being discussed. They had one chance to get this right. The people of Earth were depending on them. They needed to show strength, resilience, and creativity. Three things humans were known for. The decision was made quickly. The world's most advanced military assets, hidden deep underground and in forgotten corners of Earth, were to be activated. These were the weapons and ships designed for extreme situation, systems never tested in full, but their potential was enormous. Now was the time to bring them to life. But they weren't the onlyones with a plan on the streets, in the cities, in the corners of every nation. Ordinary people began to rise. Rumors spread like wildfire. Citizens began to prepare in their own ways. Some people volunteered to fight, some worked in secret labs to develop weapons of their own, and others spread word of hope, telling their families not to give in, to resist, no matter what. This was the true power of Earth, its people. The spirit of humanity had never been crushed by fear. It had never been defeated. As the tension built, humanity's strength began to show on the military front. General Vasquez coordinated with Earth's top strategists. They knew that direct combat will be catastrophic, but they also understood that they needed to strike first to show the Galactic Empire that Earth was not a planet to be conquered so easily. There was no time for hesitation. Every second counted as the first wave of human forces readied themselves. Something unexpected happened. The Galactic Empire, expecting the world to cower in fear, began to notice unusual activity. It wasn't just military movements they were tracking, it was the way Earth's leaders and citizens were responding. There were signs of preparation, of unity that the Empire hadn't expected. Something about Earth's resistance was different. It wasn't just a military force, it was something more powerful. The Empire's supreme commander, Zarich, stood on his command ship watching the situation unfold. His eyes narrowed in disbelief. Earth's defenses were not as helpless as he had assumed. The human race, which he had considered insignificant, was proving to be more resourceful and dangerous than anticipated. This wasn't a fight he had expected to face. The humans were showing grit, showing heart. They're preparing, Zarich muttered, tapping his fingers on the control panel. They have no chance. But they are not backing down. We'll have to crush them quickly. But even as Zarich spoke with growing frustration, humanity's secret weapon was coming online in remote parts of the planet. Engineers and technicians worked tirelessly around the clock. Ships, once thought to be obsolete, were being powered up. Ancient technology, once thought of as outdated, was being retooled and proposed. The world's greatest minds worked together, combining old ideas with new ones, fusing the wisdom of the past with the technologies of the future. And then, in the dead of night, something unexpected had happened. Earth's first strike, a massive fleet, hidden for decades, broke through Earth's atmosphere, rising from the planet's surface like ancient giants returning from the past. These ships, designed for war but long forgotten by most, began to assemble in space, ready to face the Empire head-on. They were slow compared to the Empire ships, but they were powerful, packed with weaponry that had been upgraded and modified in secret. The Galactic Empire's fleet, which had underestimated Earth's ability to fight back, now faced a new challenge. Humanity wasn't just sitting back and waiting for destruction. They were ready to fight with everything they had. The tide was turning and Earth's resistance was officially underway as Earth's fleet moved into position. General Vasquez looked out over the horizon. She knew the battle ahead would be long and difficult, but for the first time, she felt a sense of hope. Humanity had proven it could stand up to the impossible. The Galactic Empire had made a grave mistake. They had underestimated Earth, and now humanity was about to show them just how wrong they were. The battle begins. The silence of space was broken by the roar of human engines as Earth's fleet, once thought to be dormant, surged into the void. The ships, massive, hulking, and scarred with age, had been brought back to life. Each one was a symbol of human ingenuity, a relic of a time-long past, but now re-engineered. With cutting-edge weaponry, their purpose was clear: to defend Earth at all costs. The Galactic Empire's fleet, a seemingly endless armada, loomed above the planet. Like a dark cloud, the sheer size of their ships could crush any opponent without a second thought, and their firepower was unmatched. The Empire's forces were the pinnacle of military might, fast, ruthless, and efficient, but they had one fatal flaw: they didn't understand the will of humanity. As the two fleets drew closer, General Vasquez stood at the command center, her heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and determination. She had watched the Empire's fleet in action on countless reports, and she knew how terrifying their firepower was, but she had also watched Earth's fleet watched it come together piece by piece. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for everything humanity stood for. Ready the weapons, she ordered, her voice steady but firm. We fight with everything we've got. The command was relayed through the fleet, and the rumble of energy cannons charging up echoed across the decks of Earth's ships. Every man and woman on board knew the risks, but they also knew this was the moment. They had trained for. The Empire had underestimated them, and now humanity was about to make them regret it. The first salvo was fired with a dying crack. Plasma bolts shot through the vacuum of space, lighting up the darkness like flashes of lightning. The ancient ships, despite their size, moved with surprising agility, their outdated engines roaring as they dodged incoming fire. It wasn't just military tactics that had been reposed, it was the very spirit of humanity that guided their movements. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting to prove that Earth wasn't just a backwater planet to be crushed by a superior force. On the Galactic Empire's flagship, Supreme Commander Zerich watched the situation unfold in disbelief. His fingers hovered over the controls, unsure of how to respond. The human fleet, thought outdated, was more unpredictable than he had expected. They didn't follow the rules of war, didn't fight with the precision the Empire was known for. They're using old tactics, Zerich muttered, furrowing his brow. They're just throwing everything they've got. But the humans weren't throwing anything away. Each maneuver was calculated. Earth's ships, though slow, were tough and resilient. They used the knowledge gained over centuries of conflict and survival to outthink the Empire's cold mechanical precision. They weren't just warriors, they were survivors. The Empire's first counterstrike came quickly, a wave of energy blasts that tore through the empty space. But the humans weren't there. The ancient ships, relying on old stealth technology, vanished into the vastness of space, avoiding the barrage with uncanny skill. Zark's eyes narrowed. He wasn't used to his forces being outmaneuvered. Deploy the shock drones, he ordered. Flush them out. Thousands of small deadly drones were released from the Empire ships, zipping through the stars like a swarm of hornets. They were fast, designed to overwhelm opponents with their numbers and precision. But the humans were ready. They had seen the drones before, and they knew exactly how to deal with them. From beneath Earth's ships, hidden compartments opened, revealing weapons that had not seen the light of day in decades. Missile pods, ion cannons, and electromagnetic pulse devices. The drones, once thought to be an unstoppable force, were suddenly facing a well-coordinated defense. The missiles locked onto their targets, sending streams of deadly energy into the swarm. The sky was alive with explosions as the drones were torn apart one by one on Earth's flagship. A triumphant cheer erupted as the first wave of drones was destroyed. But the battle wasn't over. In fact, it had only just begun. Reposition the fleet, General Vasquez ordered, her voice cutting through the excitement. We need to stay mobile. Don't give them time to retaliate. The human ships broke formation, scattering across the field of stars. The Empire's fleet, in their pursuit of dominance, tried to follow, but the human ability to adapt and improvise made them harder to catch than anticipated. Then came the shock wave, an unexpected blast that tore through the Empire's outer defenses. A colossal explosion shook the galactic battlefield, sending debris flying in all directions. Earth's fleet had used their ingenuity, again launching a surprise attack with a powerful electromagnetic pulse that temporarily disabled several of the Empire ships. Zark's face turned pale. What just happened? He demanded, his fists clenching. They've done the impossible. But the humans weren't done yet. The battle raged on each side, taking losses. But Earth's resolve only grew stronger with every strike. Humanity wasn't fighting for conquest. They were fighting for freedom, for the survival of their way of life. They had no choice but to win. As Earth's ships regrouped for their next wave of attacks, General Vasquez stood tall of the helm, watching the stars flicker in the distance. The battle was far from over, but Earth had already proven one undeniable fact to the Empire: humanity was not a species to be underestimated. The Galactic Empire had come to conquer, to crush Earth under their boot, but they hadn't counted on this. Earth's resistance wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for everything humanity had ever stood for, and the battle had only just begun. The Empire's frustration, the vastness of space, stretched infinitely around the two fleets, both locked in a fierce contest for survival. Earth's forces, though outmatched in sheer numbers, were proving to be a far more formidable opponent than the Galactic Empire had ever imagined. With every passing minute, the Empire's arrogance was being tested, and their sense of control began to slip through their fingers. Supreme Commander Zerich paced back and forth on the bridge of the flagship, his sharp gaze fixed on the holographic displays. In front of him, the dominant Empire, with its overwhelming superiority, was now struggling to contain a fleet of ancient, reconditioned human ships that shouldn't have stood a chance. The sheer unpredictability of the human tactics left him unsettled. This wasn't how he was taught to fight wars. Deploy the main battle fleet, Zurich barked, his frustration evident in his voice. We're giving them too much room to maneuver. And this now. His officers scrambled to follow his orders, but there was an undercurrent of doubt in their movements. They had all witnessed the unexpected resilience of the humans, how their ships, Though old and slow, could absorb hits that would have destroyed any other vessel the Empire had never faced. Anything quite like it. The human fleet, too, had felt the weight of the battle. Their losses, though minimal compared to the Empire's, were still significant. Some ships had been damaged beyond repair, but the crew members aboard each of them fought with everything they had. Earth wasn't just fighting for territory. They were fighting for their existence, for the survival of their culture and their way of life. General Vasquez stood at the helm of the flagship, eyes locked on the tactical map. The battle had reached a critical point. The Empire had regrouped and was now preparing a full-scale assault. Earth's ships were holding their ground, but the Empire was relentless. A part of Vasquez knew that it was only a matter of time before the full might of the Empire's forces would descend upon them. But she wasn't afraid. Earth had faced worse and come out victorious. The same indomitable spirit that had built this fleet, that had brought them together against all odds, was still alive in every person on those ships. Prepare the advanced weapon systems, she ordered, her voice calm but resolute. We're not retreating. We push forward. The command was quickly relayed, and Earth's fleet began to position itself, moving in tight formation, weaving through the stars like a school of fish, evading a predator. The enemy ships, massive and imposing, tried to surround them, but the humans were determined to break free. They weren't just defending, they were going on the offensive. As the Galactic Empire's fleet advanced, Zark's mind raced. His ships were powerful, yes, but he hadn't expected this kind of resistance. The humans were defying every expectation, making him question the Empire's held assumptions about their weakness. He had underestimated them, and now the battle was spiraling into something far more dangerous than he had imagined. The first strike came without warning. Earth's fleet, once again relying on its ingenuity, fired a series of advanced ion cannons designed to disrupt the Empire's shields and disable their weapon systems. The blast was so powerful that several of the Empire ships immediately lost power, their shields flickering and collapsing. Zark's eyes widened in shock. How did they cut himself off? Unable to comprehend what was happening, the human ships, now emboldened by their success, closed in on the disoriented Empire vessels, launching a barrage of energy blasts. The attacks were sharp and precise, targeting weak points in the Empire's hulls. Earth's fleet was small, but every shot fired was a statement. Humanity had something that the Empire didn't. Resolve. The Empire retaliated quickly, launching a volley of their own missiles. The resulting explosion shook the battlefield, lighting up the darkness of space with a brilliant flare of colors. But even as their ships were struck, the humans adapted. Earth's ships scattered, evading the blasts with expert precision, their advanced stealth technology allowing them to vanish from sight before the Empire could land a decisive blow. Track their movements, Zurich roared. I want their ships destroyed now. But no matter how hard the Empire tried to pin them down, the humans were always one step ahead. Their tactics were unlike anything the Empire had seen before, fighting not by the book, but by sheer determination and the will to survive. It was maddening. In a desperate attempt to regain control, Zurich ordered a concentrated assault. Dozens of the Empire's largest warships converged on Earth's flagship, their massive guns charging with the power to obliterate anything in their path. The tension in the air was palpable as the fleet prepared for a decisive strike. But just as the Empire was ready to unleash their full force, Earth's fleet pulled off a maneuver so unexpected, so bold that it left the Empire reeling. General Vasquez had ordered her ships to dive toward the heart of the Empire's formation, using their smaller size and maneuverability to slit past the Empire's defenses. The ships darted through gaps in the formation, taking full advantage of the Empire's rigid structure. Earth's fleet wasn't just trying to survive anymore. They were making their move now. Vasquez shouted, her eyes flashing with determination. The human fleet unleashed its hidden weapon, a massive EMP pulse that fried the Empire's sensors, disrupting their communication and targeting systems. In that critical moment of confusion, Earth's ships locked onto their targets, firing a concentrated barrage of energy weapons that punched through the weakened hulls of the Empire's warships. The Empire was in chaos. Their perfect Battle strategy had been shattered, and the human fleet had turned the tide. The sense of frustration that had been building inside Zerk boiled over as he watched his forces crumble under the unexpected onslaught. Rig Group Zerk shouted, his voice strained with anger. We Whale crushed them, no more mistakes, but Earth's fleet had already moved. They were no longer fighting for survival alone, they were fighting for victory. And with every shot fired, the Empire's grip on the battle weakened. The Galactic Empire's frustration was palpable. This wasn't supposed to be happening. They were the supreme power in the galaxy, and yet here they were struggling against an opponent they had dismissed as insignificant. The battle was far from over, but Earth had already won something crucial: their freedom, their will to fight, and that Zarek realized was something the Empire could never conquer. The turning tide. The battlefield was an inferno of flashing and colossal explosions, but amid the chaos Earth's fleet stood resilient. It wasn't just that the human ships had survived, they were thriving against the backdrop of the Empire's once imposing might. Humanity was making its stand. The Empire, with its billions of ships and centuries of conquest, had never faced anything like this before. General Vasquez stood at the bridge, her eyes narrowed, her face grim, but determined that the battle wasn't over, not by a long shot. But the Empire's arrogance was beginning to falter. They thought they had broken humanity's spirit. They thought they could crush Earth's resolve with a show of force. But what they didn't understand was that the strength of humanity didn't lie in numbers or firepower. It lay in something far more dangerous: their will to fight and never give up. "Sir, the Empire's formation is breaking up," reported Lieutenant Morgan, her voice tight with both awe and disbelief. "They're retreating, but not in an organized way. We've hit them harder than they anticipated." Vasquez's lips curled into a small, almost imperceptible smile. Earth had suffered losses, but those losses had fueled the fire in their hearts. Every ship that went down only made the remaining fleet more determined. The idea of retreat was foreign to them. This wasn't a battle they could afford to lose. The Empire, however, had grown increasingly disorganized. Despite their vast numbers, the fleet was splintering, struggling to maintain its composure. Supreme Commander Zarek watched in frustration as his flagship, once an unchallenged symbol of power, now found itself surrounded by disarray. His fleet wasn't retreating in defeat, it was scattering in confusion. His commanders, unable to keep up with the humans' relentless attacks, had begun making mistakes. "What's happening? Why aren't you able to destroy them?" Zarek barked, his voice trembling with rage as he addressed his officers. We didn't anticipate this kind of resistance, Commander," one officer stammered, trying to hold his composure. "They're using tactics we've never seen before. It's as if they know our every move before we make it." Zark's eyes flashed with anger. The human fleet was like a southwest swarm of hornets. Every strike was calculated, every move precise. They didn't need the overwhelming numbers or technology the Empire possessed. They were using their brains, their ingenuity, and their unyielding will to outsmart their more powerful adversary. "Deploy the shockwave cannons," Zarek growled. "Crush their ships, show them what true power is." But even as he spoke, he couldn't shake the growing sense of unease. He had underestimated humanity, and now he was paying the price. The shockwave cannons, meant to obliterate any enemy within range, fired with terrifying force. The energy blasts tore through the stars, headed straight for Earth's fleet. But once again, the humans were ready, their ships scattered, executing a flawless, evasive maneuver that allowed them to dodge the shockwaves with a speed that even the Empire couldn't match. It was becoming clear the humans were fighting with the determination of those who had nothing to lose. They were fighting not just to survive, but to protect everything they held dear. "Sir, the humans, they've activated their countermeasures," reported another officer. "Their ships are using our own shockwave to turn it back on us." Zark's eyes widened in disbelief. The human fleet had somehow adapted their ships to use the Empire's own weapons against them. The audacity of it left him speechless. For the first time, Zarek felt fear creeping into his chest. He had always believed that the Empire was invincible, that no force in the galaxy could stand against their might. But this was no ordinary enemy. These were humans, beings whose resolve could not be broken, no matter how hopeless the situation seemed. Vasquez stood tall on the bridge of her ship, watching the holographic battlefield before her. Her fleet was still taking hits, still losing ships, But each loss was tempered by the knowledge that they were taking down the Empire piece by piece. Every time the Empire regrouped, Earth found a way to break their formation. The Empire was growing weaker, while Earth's resolve only strengthened. One of the Empire's largest warships, the Vindicator, tried to break through the human lines, but Earth's ships were already moving into position. The Vindicator fired its main cannon, a beam of pure destruction that could obliterate any ship in its path. But the humans had anticipated this. Their ships darted and weaved, coming from multiple directions, forcing the Empire ship to fire prematurely, its blast missing its intended target. As the humans closed, Invasis gave the order, "Fire everything. We've got to take them down." A barrage of energy blasts shot from Earth's ships, each one finding its mark. The Vindicatorance, a symbol of the Empire's might, erupted in a blaze of flames as its shields shattered, its engines failing. The Vindicator wasn't the only one. One by one, the Empire's warships began to fall, their massive forms drifting lifelessly through space. "Commander, they're retreating," Lieutenant Morgan reported, her voice filled with a mix of disbelief and triumph. "The Empire is pulling back." Zarek stared in shock as the Empire's once immense fleet began to turn tail. They had been outmaneuvered, outfought, and outmatched. The humans had not only held their ground, they had reversed the tide of battle. Vasquez took a deep breath, her eyes never leaving the battlefield. Earth had done the impossible, but this was just the beginning. The Empire might have been forced to retreat, but their arrogance would bring them back. Earth would be ready. "This isn't over." Vasquez said quietly, as if reminding herself as much as her crew, "We've won this battle, but the war is far from over." The Galactic Empire's frustration had reached its peak, and the victory on Earth's side marked a turning point. Humanity had proven that they would not be crushed by the overwhelming power of the Empire they had risen to fight. And now they would fight with everything they had, knowing that the fight for their survival had only just begun. The Empire's wrath, the victory on Earth, had sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The once invincible Galactic Empire was in turmoil for the first time in their long history. They had been humiliated by a species they had once considered primitive and insignificant. Earth had become a symbol of defiance, a beacon of hope for the oppressed, and a rallying cry for the galaxy's outcasts. But the Empire didn't take defeat lightly. They had endured centuries of domination, and no setback, no matter how severe, would break their resolve. General Zarek, furious and vengeful, had retreated to the Empire's hidden command center, a fortress of black steel and energy shields. It was a place where even the most experienced officers dared not enter without permission. The hum of the fortress's power core vibrated through the walls as Zarek prepared his counterattack. "We will make them regret their defiance," Zarek said coldly, his eyes dark with rage. "We'll crush them. No one humiliates the Empire and lives to tell the tale." His officers, though shaken by the recent defeat, knew better than to question his orders. They had seen the power of the Empire firsthand. The humans might have been resilient, but they had no idea what the Empire was truly capable of. The Empire's next move would be nothing short of annihilation. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Vasquez and her crew watched with a growing sense of unease. Earth had celebrated their victory, but the truth was undeniable. The Empire wasn't a force to be underestimated. The humans had won a battle, yes, but the war was far from over. "General, we've detected massive fleet movements near the outer rim," Lieutenant Morgan reported, her voice tense. "It's the Empire. They're coming back, and they're bringing everything they've got." Vasquez's jaw tightened. The Empire's retreat had been tactical, a calculated move to regroup and prepare for their next strike. She had known this was coming, but the weight of it still hung heavily on her shoulders. "What's their plan?" Vasquez has asked, her voice low but resolute. "They've deployed a new class of warship, bigger, faster, and with weapons that could wipe out entire fleets in a single blast," Morgan replied, her eyes scanning the data on her screen. "We're looking at the Oblivion-class battleships. It's their answer to our countermeasures." Vasquez clenched her fists, her mind racing. The Empire was bringing out their most powerful weapon. If the humans were to stand a chance, they would need every advantage they could get. "We need to rally the fleet. Every ship, every soldier, prepare for the worst." Vasquez ordered, her voice cutting through the tense air. We've already beaten them. Once we can do it again. The human fleet, though battered, was ready. The victory had sparked something inside them, an unbreakable bond, a shared resolve to protect their home and their future. The Empire had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed Earth would bend under pressure. Now they would see just how wrong they were. As the Empire's fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's defenses, the sheer scale of their power was overwhelming. The Oblivion-class battleships loomed like dark giants against the backdrop of space, their weapon systems primed and ready. The sight was enough to make even the most seasoned warriors on Earth pause for a moment. These were no ordinary ships. These were the Empire's final word in military might. Zark's voice crackled through the communication system, dripping with arrogance. Humans, you've defied us long enough. This is your final warning. Surrender now, and we may spare your planet. Resist, and we will erase you from existence. Vassus stood tall. As the transmission ended, her eyes locked on the holographic display of the advancing fleet. She could feel the weight of the moment, the final clash between Earth's defiance and the Empire's overwhelming power. Make no mistake, Vask said, her voice steady and unwiring. We will not surrender, not today, not ever. As the Empire's ships drew closer, the humans prepared for the most intense battle of their lives. Earth's fleet had no delusions. They knew they were outmatched, but they also knew that they were fighting for something greater than themselves. They were fighting for their families, for their future, and for the very idea that no one, not even a galaxy-spanning empire, had the right to crush their spirit. The first salvo from the Oblivion-class battleship struck with devastating force, sending shock waves through space that rattled Earth's fleet. The energy beams from the Empire ships tore through the void, cutting down smaller human vessels with chilling precision. But Earth didn't falter. The fleet held its ground, its ships scattering and regrouping in perfect unison, moving in ways the Empire had not expected. Earth's ships darted through the chaos, their evasive maneuvers a testament to the years of human ingenuity and determination. Then, with a surge of determination, Vasquez ordered her fleet to strike back. Return fire, everything we've got, she commanded, her voice filled with a burning resolve. We're not backing down. The humans launched a series of counterattacks, their smaller ships darting around the massive Empire battleships like flies swarming a much larger beast. Their tactics, born from ingenuity rather than sheer power, began to take effect. The Oblivion-class ships, with all their might and advanced technology, found themselves struggling against the unpredictable nature of the humans' attacks. The Empire's arrogance was its downfall. Zarich had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to evolve in the heat of battle. Every time the Empire thought they had Earth's fleet cornered, the humans found a way to slip through their grasp. The Empire's once unbeatable ships, despite their size and firepower, were now facing a force they couldn't easily overcome. As the battle raged on, Vask felt something she hadn't felt in years, hope. The tide was turning again. The Empire's arrogance had been their greatest mistake. They had underestimated humanity's resilience, and now they were paying the price. This is just the beginning, Vask has whispered to herself, watching the Empire falter. They won't stop until we're gone, but they will never break us. Earth's last stand. The silence of space was shattered by the roar of engines and a hum of weapons charging for the final clash. Earth's fleet, though battered from the previous skirmishes, stood resolute against the advancing might of the Galactic Empire. The Oblivion-class battleships loomed larger than ever, their weapon systems crackling with deadly energy. The Empire's thirst for vengeance had reached its people, and there was no turning back. Vassus stood at the helm of Earth's flagship, the resolute, her hands gripping the armrests of her command chair. She could feel the pressure, the weight of the moment pressing down on her like the endless vacuum of space. This was it, the last chance for humanity to prove they were more than just survivors. The Empire had underestimated them from the beginning, but now Earth was ready to show its full strength. The view on the command screen was overwhelming. The fleet stretched out before them, a sea of humanity's finest ships, all preparing for one final stand. Despite the odds, the humans fought with something the Empire couldn't understand: the will to protect everything they had built, families, cultures, dreams. These were things that the Empire had never cared about, and they were the things that would make all the difference in the coming battle. Vasquez's voice was steady, But inside she knew the truth. This could be their final fight. If they lost, there would be no escape, no retreat. Earth's survival would be nothing more than a story told in the stars. Another fallen world under the thumb of the Galactic Empire. All ships prepare for the final engagement, she commanded, her voice calm but resolute. We fight for our future. We fight for our families. We fight for the right to remain free. As the human fleet aligned itself in a defensive formation, Zurich's voice crackled through their communication system, his words cold and filled with contempt sent chills through the crew. Humans, your resistance is futile. He sneered. You've made a grave mistake in defying the Empire. We will extinguish your species, and when the ashes settle, the galaxy will be ours. The taunt only made Vask is more determined. She could hear the result in her crew's voices, a silent promise that they would not back down. Earth was not going to die today. The first volley from the Oblivion-class battleships struck with cataclysmic force, their energy beams tearing through space at unimaginable speeds. The human ships, though smaller, were nimble, their tactics unpredictable, and born from sheer survival instinct, caught the Empire off guard. They darted around the massive Empire ships, launching bursts of fire from every angle. The Empire's mighty warships were being chipped away, their hulls cracked and smoking, but the Empire was relentless. More weapons, bigger guns, their fury was unmatched, and the Oblivion-class ships unleashed another wave of destruction. The human fleet's defensive shields flickered under the onslaught, but they held steady, holding back the deadly barrage as best as they could keep them off balance. Vazid shouted, "We need to buy time for the counterattack." She watched as her fleet moved with precision, their tactics defying the logic of the Empire's might. Earth's ships used the terrain of space asteroids to brace even the gravity of nearby planets to their advantage. They turned every rock, every flicker of space into an advantage. The Empire's ships had superior weapons and armor, but they lacked something humanity had in abundance: adaptability. As the battle raged on, the Resolute found itself face to face with the largest of the Empire's Oblivion-class ships. It was a moment that would decide everything. The massive warship, a dark behemoth of twisted metal and glowing energy, loomed before Vasquez. Its weapon systems were ready to fire, and its hull was nearly invulnerable to anything the human fleet had thrown at. But Vasquez was not afraid. She had something the Empire could not predict. Humanity's unyielding will fire everything. We've got, she ordered. The Resolute unleashed its full arsenal, every missile, every burst of plasma. The barrage was relentless, a storm of fire and destruction that slammed into the Oblivion-class ship. The impact was thunderous, shaking the Resolute to its core, but the enemy ship did not fall, not yet. For a moment everything went quiet. The black void of space seemed to hold its breath. Then a bright flare of light erupted from the Empire ship as one of its core reactors breached. The explosion was massive, bright enough to blind anyone within miles. It sent shock waves rippling across space, rocking the human fleet and sending debris scattering in every direction. But it wasn't over. Another Oblivion-class ship joined the fray, and the Empire's relentless assault continued. Earth's fleet had broken through one of the largest Empire ships, but they had only begun to fight for it. Their survival bases knew they were running out of time. The Empire's reinforcements were arriving, and they would not stop until Earth was a graveyard. But the human spirit was stronger than any weapon, and it had been proven time and time again. Even if they were outmatched, even if they faced certain doom, Earth would never stop fighting. In the heart of battle, when it seemed like the Empire might win, Vasquez stood firm. The Resolute shook under the impact of another blast, but her crew stood strong, their resolve unbroken. The fight for Earth, for humanity's future, would continue until the very last breath. "Do it now," Vask muttered, her voice full of hope and desperation. "We're not done yet with that." The humans unleashed their final weapon, a new untested technology, a weapon capable of turning the tide of battle. It was a gamble, a last-ditch effort. The human fleet fired everything they had, each ship coordinating its fire in perfect unison. The explosion that followed was unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. A shock wave of energy surged through space, a pulse that washed over everything in its path, neutralizing the Empire's weapons and disabling their ships for a brief moment. The battle stopped. The entire fleet, human and Empire alike, paused as the enormity of the blast settled into spacepass, and her crew stared at the empty void, waiting for the dust to clear. But Earth had made its stand. Humanity had proved once and for all that they would never bow to tyranny, and no matter the cost, they would always find a way to fight back.